Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Tech Can't Save Us podcast brought to you by Literal Humans. As always, I'm your host, Paul David, co founder and CEO of Literal Humans. And I'm joined today by Ross Mitchell, the co founder of ResearchGOAT. We're here today to talk about generative AI for in depth qualitative research. Welcome to the pod, Ross.
Thanks for glad to be here.
And where are you calling in from today?
Los Angeles, California.
Nice. Well, thanks for taking an early one for us over in the British summertime time zone. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
So, just by way of introduction, Ross is the CEO and co-founder of ResearchGOAT, which is an AI-powered qualitative research platform that helps businesses understand their customers. So, just to clarify and full disclosure, we are a customer of ResearchGOAT. We're just diving into it to kind of research some HR tech founders and get some good qualitative research from them for our content. So, just wanted to put that out there. Ross is also a creative leader in Neil, which is a London-based company that helps businesses hire creative leaders for fractional support and assemble project teams quickly. I'm also a member of Neil. And Ross has an incredible client roster that includes Netflix, Amazon, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Xerox, Samsung, Ford, Lucid, Amgen, AT&T, Mitsubishi, just to name a few. Just a few small companies that maybe you've heard of. So we're really grateful to have you on the pod today, Ross.
Yeah, thanks for that great introduction.
Well, you made it easy with your incredible roster of present and former clients. So thanks for all the good work you've done. Want to jump right in and just talk about the ways in which AI seems to be reshaping really every aspect of the tech industry. Curious to understand how you see it transforming the way businesses understand and interact with their customers. If you could share maybe a bit more about ResearchGOAT's AI-powered platform and maybe any examples of some breakthrough insights it's led to for your clients and maybe how it's reshaped their strategies and their products.
Yeah, I mean, ResearchGOAT at its heart, is a platform designed to automate the qualitative research process, which, every company wants to, or, says they want to get close to their customer, but, it's very difficult to do. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money. So to be able to consume, and of course, qualitative data is much more useful in terms of really getting, answering questions that companies have in terms of like what customers are really going through. Um, so I mean, that's what the platform is really designed to do, to get at that kind of data, and to be able to do it quickly, efficiently, and be able to synthesize it really quickly and efficiently. Um, so and we're one of many platforms. I mean, lots and lots of things are undergoing changes within, I guess, the broader research landscape. I mean, there are a ton of AI related things. So there's definitely going to be a huge shift in data collection generally and understanding customers, well beyond our platform. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of changes that are happening just in terms of the volume of data you can collect, the speed of analyzing that data, um, the speed of reacting to it, but also finding out sort of hidden nuggets of data. I mean, I'm sure you've heard in like biotechnology of sifting through tons of drug candidates and the AI being able to find that one that no person would be able to find because it's just too much data. I mean, the same thing applies of just kind of finding hidden linkages and things like that through massive amounts of data. So, um, in terms of immediate changes I see in terms of my area, which is much more sort of human-centered design research type area. Um, a lot of the work has traditionally been qualitative research because it's a lot of sort of understanding process. I mean, if you're going to do like a service design blueprint, things like that, that's a very qualitative process and understanding all the steps that are going into that. But a lot of companies, there was like the early 2010s when a lot of companies were doing a lot of in-depth qual, but I feel like a lot of that has shifted over the years to much more pressure to do quantitative research for various reasons. I think some might shift back uh, because of AI, in just that it enables the sort of speed and cost effectiveness of quant, but being able to still collect the qual data. So I think that's one area where we might see a shift for sure.
And wanted to like sort of drill down a bit on the different use cases for ResearchGOAT. So like things like voter sentiment, um, employee experience, reducing the discovery process from weeks to days. This is one that's really important for us as a marketing agency. We'll spend weeks onboarding a new client, trying to really understand their audience or their ICPs, their ideal customer profile, to use marketing agency language. And also getting feedback on potential new product features. Just curious, like how you're thinking about those use cases and how you've seen them applied in the early days of ResearchGOAT.
Yeah, I mean, AI is really only as good as like the context you give it and the the prompting you tell it in terms of like the task and all of that. Um, so I mean, it's been a lot of work to hone in on the right context, the right instructions. But once we get to that, I mean, it's pretty easy to have the AI do the things we want it to do in the research process. Because I mean, the conversations are dynamic, but the steps themselves and like the process. Okay, now we're going to create a discussion guide. We're going to, X, Y, and Z. It's a set, a fairly set process with dynamic inputs from the participant. So yeah, once we have those things down, we haven't really seen a limit on the types of use cases. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the best use cases are like you mentioned, are cases where there's obvious need for going in-depth qual, like employee experience and really understanding employees or voter sentiment. But it's large scale. We're talking Fortune 500 company or the U.S. population with voter sentiment. So you want to do qualitative research, but to actually collect all that is like impossible in traditional ways. Um, so yeah, I mean but again, it's a sort of a repeatable process. We build everything in terms of collecting that data and like how we want to analyze it. Um, and then yeah, I mean it's able to do things that we've always wanted to do, but haven't been able to do just because of the scale and things like that.
Really interesting. Would love to hear a bit about, so part of what you do is you get experts, right? Like survey participants involved, and these are qualified folks who are subject matter experts in the areas that the folks who employ ResearchGOAT are looking to beef up the information. Just curious to understand like your recruitment process for those folks. How do you ensure that they're qualified experts? How do you make sure that their understanding of things is relevant and trustworthy? Because I know that's like obviously a big issue these days with the spread of secondary AI content that's just kind of regurgitating things out there. The importance of subject matter experts and firsthand expertise is just growing. So curious to hear about your process there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's AI, but just like any research process, it would be garbage in, garbage out. So it does require good, high quality data, maybe even more so because there's less sort of finessing with the human. It is much more like taking input A and creating output B. So, you need the right inputs to do that. Um, so yeah, I mean, ensuring high quality participants is definitely a huge part of it. So, on our platform, you can either bring your own, and we definitely give like briefings on how to find the right participants and who they should be, and incentivizing them properly and all of that. But yeah, we're also able to find participants. We don't maintain a panel ourselves. We have like panel partners that we work with to be able to get participants. Um, but honestly, it's the same sort of things that have applied in traditional research in finding the right participants. So I mean, I've worked in research for a long time, and very much sort of using the same strategies and sort of how to incentivize people. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's like uh, putting together a really high quality brief screener that our AI is able to do, um, to really get at the right type of participants. And we set up our screener in such a way that uh, setting up a good screener, it's like you don't want to ask things too directly where the participant can like just guess what you're looking for. So the AI is able to do that and sort of put together questions that aren't um, overly obvious on what we're looking for. So that's one thing. I mean, we also do things like, I mean, you're right, anything that's like AI or like an automated task, I mean, it's like ripe for fraud in research, where it's just people on Amazon Mechanical Turk and things like that. So I mean, we also do things like actually record the interviews, and collect all of the data on like who the participant is and their email, and I mean sometimes even like their LinkedIn profile. So I mean, there's a lot of like tracing back on who the participant is, and you can see the participant and listen to the recording and everything. So, um, it's not just like a black box of data. So there's a lot of ways to just go back and ensure. I mean, once people see they're on video too, I mean, it's like that in itself is a security feature.
Yeah, that was sort of my question, was like, do you actually get to see the the video recording or the audio recording of the interview, which sounds like you do. So that's a nice validation point. Um, Curious about like, have you had any good luck or even skill, I should say, in sourcing like hard to get participants, like folks who are extremely niche and maybe there's like very few of them in the world. Maybe they don't have a huge digital presence. Just curious about that.
I mean, honestly, no, not on our platform because we usually tell people if it's like a super specific recruit to work with a specialized recruiter. We need Fortune 500 CEOs, things like that. That's too difficult for us. I mean, we could probably do it, but like that would just be like hiring us for another project, right? It was like as opposed to anything automated. Um, so no, I mean, as long as it's somewhat, close to general population, and that's generally the the types of people that people have been looking for. I mean, if it's also like, you're looking for this super specialized, hey, Fortune 500 company, CEO, things like that, probably gonna do the interview themselves anyways, right? So like just the use case, I think lends it more to like general population type of recruits.
Yeah, one thing that's good to mention is like, getting good results from AI is all about learning the art of prompt engineering, right? Like, so asking the right questions and providing the right amount of context, giving, maybe even examples. So it's super curious to understand how you trained ResearchGOAT's AI model to ask the right questions and just interface with the interviewees, better than other tools out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I come from a research background and have done a ton of research myself. So, moderating thousands, I assume, of interviews. So a lot of experience on, what makes a good interview and what opens people up and how to structure it properly and those sorts of things. And so definitely tried to instill as much of that as possible into how the interviews take place and how the AI reacts and things like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, we did a lot of like just training on, hey, this is a good follow-up question. This is not a good follow-up question. Um, it tries to get at, if somebody says, I like this, I don't like this, and then ask like a why question or ask for examples, those sorts of things. But also do things like challenge the participants occasionally. If they mention something and the AI goes back to previous part of the conversation and asking about that and like how it connects to those sorts of things. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's all about having the right data set on like what is a good example of an interview or analysis, having the right context of what the conversation is about and like who the participant is, and then yeah, I mean the AI is then pretty good at carrying out the conversation.
There's been a lot of talk about, obviously bias and misinformation and sort of hallucinations with AI, generative AI models. So just curious how you've built guardrails to prevent against that in your specific model with ResearchGOAT.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is we don't have people like just asking questions, so um, it's all sort of on somewhat of like rails, right? Like we have very specific inputs and outputs, and checked and rechecked and things like that. So there's even though like the data set itself, in terms of the interviews, is dynamic. Like what we're doing with it, and like it isn't that dynamic. It's pretty predictable. Um, so it's been easier to put up like guardrails of like, okay, and it's it's a contained data set. They're not asking about, facts about the War of 1812, things like that. They're just asking about, we're just prompting about the particular interviews that have just taken place, right? So it's limited data set, limited like usage of the data set. So we haven't seen a big issue there. I mean, we had to do the only thing we had to do was a little bit of, initially like on the output, it would occasionally like make up a quote, but we put in things to prevent it from doing that. But that was
That's
it would never like completely sort of make up anything in terms of like the analysis. But yeah, like because we asked for examples, and so it
yeah.
would, and we're asking for like multiple examples. Oh, the AI feeling, oh, I got to fill something in. Let me just come up with a quote. But yeah, we've got to not do that anymore.
To be fair, and I find this hilarious about the conversations about AI. Like, we often accuse the AI of doing things that we do on a regular basis. Like, how many times have you heard someone misattribute like a Mark Twain quote or something like that? And just
Of
like,
course.
so it's just kind of funny that we get to your point of garbage in, garbage out. Ironically, the AIs make the same mistakes that we humans make, but we're very hard on them, obviously, because it's a new thing. So,
Mhm.
um, any interesting sort of success stories or early wins? I know it's early, in terms of ResearchGO, but just some successes you want to shout about.
Um, I mean, it's more just been, I mean, people getting through projects successfully, honestly, is like a win. And everything working and people being happy. Um, we have people using the platform and trying out their different projects. It's very easy to just kind of sign up and try it. Um, and yeah, them just inputting their questions and getting some participants and getting the data back, and hey, it worked. That's definitely a cool and a success.
Yeah, just having the thing. I mean, after all the work you put into it, just having the thing function the way you imagine it to or want it to is often a win.
Right.
Curious about like the market opportunity here, like and sort of what inspired you to kind of found or co-found ResearchGO. Like, what were you seeing in the market? Like, oh, these firms or these companies, they really just need to reduce the discovery time. Like, what was the sort of specific need that you were seeing in the market that inspired ResearchGO?
Sure. Yeah. Um, so I mean, right before I was at Accenture, which is obviously a gigantic consulting firm working with a lot of big clients, and in anything we're doing, we need data. Whether it's working in design or just like working on a launch plan or a strategy, you need something to go off of. Um, so and oftentimes that's collecting some sort of research. I mean, it should be ideally, but clients often would would not want to collect data or only collect a minimal amount, even though they can recognize it would be good to do it. They just don't, for whatever reason, have the time, the budget. So um, the insight really was just, hey, clients need this data. They ideally would want to collect it, but yeah, I just don't have the time, budget. So can we do something that doesn't sacrifice quality too much, but is able to collect that data, um, in a really easy, relevant way that that then can be applied to whatever design, strategy, etc.
Would love to hear a bit more about your buyers. Like who are the individuals, who are the humans at, sort of XYZ companies that are likely most invested in a project like ResearchGOAT. Obviously, I'm an agency founder. Agencies want to reduce their discovery time, but who else are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, agencies are certainly a big one, and agencies of all sorts. Just anybody who's dealing with data and clients who need data to do X. So that's definitely a big one. But yeah, I mean, we've also seen just like, research groups within big companies as well, just looking for ways to streamline, automate, uh, be able to grow the scale of a lot of their research. Not necessarily a place, but just yeah, being able to get to a bigger scale. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of been all over the place. Because there are lots of different ways to use it, and a lot of different, yeah, just a ton of different use cases. Um, so, I mean, it's been kind of all over the place in terms of who might be a potential user. Really, just anybody using data and sort of needing scale in that data. And I mean, who doesn't want to collect data quicker, easier, cheaper? I guess potentially anybody, but yeah, definitely agencies have been big buyer. I mean, thing with the corporations, like there's definitely interest, but it's a little slower going just because AI is so new, and security concerns and things like that. It's not like a lack of interest in like the use case. It's just it's other things that sort of make it a slower process to adopt.
And would love to hear a bit more about your personal journey. So, you mentioned working for big names like Accenture, sorry, I always get that one wrong. Would just be curious how your experiences at some of these major companies, or, working with them as clients, how did it influence your vision to kind of develop an AI powered qualitative research platform? What were the sort of milestones along the way that led you to ResearchGO?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I originally came from academia, uh, and anthropologist, and then moved into design from there. So like at an industrial design firm, and I've basically been in some kind of design innovation strategy type of role ever since, whether on agency side or client side. Um, and yeah, I mean, when I first got into it, it was a lot more. I mean, I just did a ton of like ethnography and really getting out into the field and being able to do a lot of in-depth research. Again, I think 2000s, early 2010s, there's a lot more appetite for that. I've seen some of that dry up, and the biggest drying up was like COVID, where everything went Zoom, and a lot of things have remained Zoom in terms of research. And um, so, that was a big thing, just seeing like the appetite for like how companies want to do research had kind of shifted. And then of course, AI becoming like a big thing, and sort of like those two things combined, you could just see like there was definitely going to be a lot of shifts in how research was done going forward. And yeah, I just wanted to get out in front of it and try to do my own thing there, sort of going with where the trends were headed, along both those lines. So yeah, just seeing what I could do and leveraging my expertise as much as possible to try and enable that.
And I'm glad you talked about kind of like where AI is heading. So we're just super curious, like having jumped in, kind of feet first into developing an AI powered product. Just curious, kind of like what you envision in terms of the future, how taking on board these ethical considerations, the drive for innovation, the big push for kind of reducing, research, the scale and scope of research processes, focusing them more using AI. Just where do you see things headed? Like, what are your sort of broad predictions for the space specifically?
Just AI in general.
Yeah, but even AI, I'd say specific to the research space, 'cause I feel like that's where you're best powered to speak. Like, maybe other applications you see for AI in research and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it can go many ways, both, very good to dystopian ways. It's pretty wide open right now. I will say like, working with AI a lot, you see that, at this point it is still pretty dumb. Like overall, we have it on like Rails and very controlled, like, and it's able to do that sort of limited task well, but like truly like just being a smart like, hey, just go do this for me, like, no, like AI can't can't do that. um but the thing with like AI is, and people like, oh well, AI can't ever do what I do, like, look, and they give examples from current state. I mean, that's true, but like it won't stop getting better. I mean, that's that's the thing. Yeah, it might not, replace what you do now, but it's only going to get. It's not going to get worse. It's only going to get better. And like your skill set, you're still going to be a person. It's not like going to fundamentally change. Like we're not going to evolve into something different. So just the speed tracks are completely different for the human versus the AI. And eventually that's going to come to a head in some form or fashion. um, my ideal state of research is, again, I think a lot of like quant work can move to qual, and sort of a good combination of sort of human machine, of being able to collect a ton of data, sift through it, in a really efficient way, and like have people following up on things, going more, uh, humanoid robots and things like that going out in the field probably isn't that soon. And probably even if it was, it would probably always be kind of creepy. So maybe humans always have that aspect. I don't know. I mean, people probably don't want to be interviewed, in like a hospital setting by like a robot and things like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's probably
You,
always like a creep factor
You,
there.
you wonder
Uh,
though, like especially something like vote. We talked about voting and like polling and stuff like that. You wonder if people's responses would change if it's like a humanoid robot versus like another like a person. Like I know there's been some research about like persuasion and having like different types of people, different reactions from the pollster and things like that that can kind of shape the responses. Just curious if there it would almost be like a flattening, maybe. Who knows? But just yeah,
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
curious one.
no idea. I mean, like I said, I think things can go a lot of different ways. So yeah, I mean, there could be this human machine melding, and I think that's, and could end up with like even more like qual design research because of that. Hey, we can scale things up really easily, and but also, you know leverage what makes people unique, and really get an awesome
Yeah.
blend. Um, but I
You
mean, like
mentioned
total. Go ahead.
You mentioned like quant moving to qual, and like so quantitative research moving to qualitative research. We'd love to just hear about that a bit more. Like, what do you see happening there, and why?
Well, I mean, it's total speculation, but I think a lot of work. So, like, quant is great for like scale type of questions. How many people do X, or when anything statistics is involved, like um, correlation and things like that. Um, it- Qual, ideally should be for like the more, why type of questions. Why do people do certain things, or process type of things? People understanding people's day and how the different elements connect. Um, so a lot of those like why type of questions, um, I think are just sort of defaulted to quant, even though they shouldn't be, for things we've talked about in terms of budget and timelines. Obviously it's much quicker to do, a quant survey, but ideally it would be done in a qual way. So yeah, I mean, I think some of that work could start moving back over, and that would be that would be like the ideal state, where like, yeah, I mean, a lot more work comes into like qual design research, and just sort of balances out qual quant, and sort of the right method is being used for what the question really is. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of the ideal state.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think also be curious to hear your opinion too about the regulatory space. So obviously, there's been a huge amount of talk about recent legislation passed in the EU, and just what's going to happen with the regulatory space when it comes to artificial intelligence. So curious if you've seen any promising things, any worrying things in the regulatory space when it comes to AI. Anything you and your firm are worried about when it comes to regulation that might affect your product. I'm curious your thoughts there.
Honestly, I haven't I haven't paid too much attention to it. We're certainly clients ask a lot on like data protection and privacy and things like that, and GDPR and the California laws and things like that. But no, I mean, there's nothing like fundamentally like worrying me on. Uh, I think like anything, there's a lot of talk, but like it's very difficult. Like once things are moving on like technologies like this to actually, well, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of political will to like change much, honestly. So I
Yeah.
don't know that any sort of regulations and things will ultimately go very far.
Yeah, political will nor like regulatory sort of, how do we say, like heft, the idea that like a regulator is going to come knocking on your door or any other AI company's door, or like short of like open AI maybe or something like that, is um pretty questionable and very unlikely. So which you could look at that many different ways, but it's interesting just to say that like people are just moving ahead, moving the tech forward, as you said, and without really looking over their shoulder, which probably in some senses is a good thing, but also I know there like folks have concerns out there about what that could mean. So something to look out for in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's been great. Well, where can folks find out more about your work, about ResearchGOAT, and anything you want to shout out about ResearchGOAT in terms of where you all are headed and how folks can get involved? We'd be curious to hear more about that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's researchgoat.com. Very easy to find us. Free to sign up, free to try it out. So yeah, by all means, um, sign up, try it out. But you can also set up a conversation with me to go more in depth right on the website, um, to take you through everything. Yeah, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to chat with anybody on AI or research or design, whatever it might be.
That's great. And it wouldn't be a marketing agency if we didn't ask about your name. How did you land on ResearchGOAT itself? Like, how'd you get that?
Um, Well, within like the research space, there's a lot of animal type of things, like SurveyMonkey, right, being the main one. So there's that, and then I mean the research part is pretty obvious, just telling them, okay, they're a research related company. But the goat, sticking with the animal thing, but also the sports related, greatest of all time, just trying to play up like, oh, it's able to do really good research. So goat logo, but also yeah, connected with the sports thing of greatest of all time.
Nice one. Yeah, we love the animal. I mean, obviously our name's literal humans, but we love the anthropomorphic animals, like animals doing human things and stuff like that. It plays well with audiences. So love the fact you've gone with the goat and the goat, obviously the sports references and stuff like that. So that's really cool. Um, well, thank you so much, Ross, for your time. Really appreciate it. Again, you jumping on early Pacific time. This has been another episode of Tech Can't Save Us podcast brought to you by Literal Humans. Our guest today was Ross Mitchell, the co-founder of ResearchGOAT. That's researchgoat.com. They do generative AI for in-depth qualitative research, and they're doing really good work. So definitely be sure to check them out. Thanks for your time today, Ross.
Thank you.
And for everyone out there, please don't forget to give us well, first of all, listen, download, give us a 5-star rating so we can keep bringing on wonderful guests like Ross to talk about cool stuff like generative AI for qualitative research. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Sweet.